Okay, starting now. We're learning the Sikha of Shabbos Parshas Vayeitsei. That year was hey Aaron, that year was Tes Teves Kislev. Tes Kislev is of course the birthday and yahrzeit of the Mittler Rebbe, the second Rebbe Chabad Dov Ber Shnei Ari. And just to let the people know that this class is starting now.
You know what I don't understand? Does it seem like the Jewish calendar is a lot later this year, even though the Pesach was earlier? I'm like my birthday, my English birthday, December 11th, and my Hebrew is the 7th of Teves, but it's not until January.
There's a leap because there was a leap year, so I think actually if you look at this year, Tufshin Yudaf 1950, 51, Tes Kislev was the Shabbos Vayeitsei, and today is only Hay, so we're kind of behind. Many times Vayeitsei turns out to be Tes Kislev, so we're a little bit behind because we have the leap year. All right, let's get to this. Let's get to the Sikha. So the Sikha is for Shabbos Parshas Vayeitsei Tes Kislev, the year Tufshin Yudalef, which corresponds to 1950 going into 51. You do what's known. Haminig, the custom, another custom is that a Shabbos before a wedding, the chassan gets called up to the Torah. That's called an ufruf. Gets called up for an aliyah. The tam haminig, and the custom is because as my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe, has explained that mishum shebahagdama. Hold on, Aaron. Mishum shebahagdama l'kol pu'ula tzarich Yehudi liskasher im haTorah. Because anything a person starts in their life should be done with Torah. They're starting in marriage, so the marriage should start with Torah. Yes, Aaron.
Okay, so if I'm saying this correctly, I've seen some people, so when you do the Torah, some people have a lunch or they have a kiddush, and some people do it after the Shabbos after.
There's different customs. Sfardim do it afterwards, Ashkenazim do it before. Okay, let's get back to the Sikha. Okay, Balachas Kama v'Kama. Even more so, when we're talking about something so essential like building a home of a Jewish home, so it's important to have it started with Torah. Like Aaron says, some people have the custom, it's the Shabbos, the Ufruf is the Shabbos after the wedding, but it's definitely around the wedding. And so it should be a binyan adiyah, the everlasting completion of the building of a Jewish family home. I said then that the building of the home should be on the foundation of Torah mitzvahs. V'vadai, surely the Rebbe says, shebahagdamal is that tzarich liskasher Torah. So therefore, we have to start it, and that's why the Chabad minig is in most Ashkenazim is to start it before that, even with Torah. That's why we have an aliyah to the Torah for the chassan in the Shabbos before the wedding. So the Rebbe asked the question. Again, you have to remember this is. The Rebbe is saying this for bringing on Shabbos Vayeitsei Tes Kislev. Tes Kislev was a few days before the Rebbe's own before the Rebbe's own Ufruf. The Rebbe got married on the 14th of Kislev many years before that, but he was remembering the Ufruf of his own Ufruf when he got called up to the Torah before he got married in 1928. So he says like this. Why is it that we don't say a pilpul? Someone gets up there and says a deep Talmudic or halachic insight. You get called up with the words of the Torah. It's the reading of the Torah Shebiksav. Ubagdama, the Rebbe explains. There's different parts of the Torah. There's the Torah, the general difference of Torah Shebiksav, the written Torah, and Torah Shebal, the oral Torah. Ubeneim gufa, and within the written and the oral Torah. There's also different divisions. In the way one learns the written Torah, there's Amiras Psuki HaTorah, just saying the words of the Torah. If one is to read the words of Torah without understanding even the translation, is Limud Psuki HaTorah B'Pirushim HaPashat. Then there's one way is just to read the words, and you can make a bracha on that. That's why everyone makes a bracha when they get called up to the Torah. We don't test someone before they get an aliyah to understand, to know if they know the meaning of it. Because as long as you're looking at the words of the Torah, that enough is a blessing. So that's the learning Torah, just the words of the Torah. And then he says, Limud Psuki HaTorah B'Pirusha Mapashat, to understand the basic meaning of the words of the Torah. Limud Mapirusha Mefarshi Torah, to understand it with a deeper understanding with the commentaries. When it comes to the oral Torah, Limud Dinei V'Lachas HaTorah, there's the learning of the laws of the Torah. V'Limud Tamei Halachas, and the reasoning of the laws, Upilpul HaTorah, and getting into the depth of the thinking of the laws of the Torah, which is called the Pilpul. Ulahaisiv, the Rebbe says, Shachiluk ben halachas HaTorah ulapilpul HaTorah. What is the difference between just learning a law, opening up the Shulchan Aruch and learning the law of Torah, and what's called the Pilpul of Torah, the getting deep into the thinking of Torah, the thinking of the laws? Is mudgish benegeh lachiv dagdamas limud Torah fnei chasna. We could see it also how it works, how a person should learn Torah before they get married. The difference when someone learns the pilpul, like you go into the yeshiva and you're learning the Talmud, or you're learning just the laws of the Torah, not just, but focusing on the law of the Torah. There's no limit. A person could learn their whole life and constantly being mefalful and learning the depth of Torah. There's no end to getting to the depth of the laws and the reasoning. And this is a verse that says about Torah that Arucha mi'eretz mida v'rchava minayam. The Torah is like it's like a long land, and it's like the sea that has no end. Therefore, a person has to constantly learn Torah, because there's never a moment that you can't be learning something new in Torah. As much as a person learns Torah, you could learn more, because there's a concept of the limitlessness of Torah. When it comes to the laws of Torah, a person in theory could finish all the laws. You open up the Shulchan Aruch and you learn all the laws. You learned it. There's a concept of learning the whole Torah. What does it mean to learn the whole Torah? When a person is learning if it completes all the Shulchan Aruch, he's learned or she's learned the entire Torah. Like a as we find the Talmud says, returning the page, Shal ben Daima, they've asked, Kigoinani, he says, for instance, if I learned the whole Torah, what do I do? Because there's a concept of learning the whole Torah. Shapirish lemadati kol Torah kula. What does it mean to learn the whole Torah? How could a person say, I've learned the whole Torah and the Torah is limitless? Is who limit kol halachas haTorah? It's because he learned all the laws of the Torah. So he asked, if I learned all the laws of the Torah, then what? So a person, we see again that within the learning itself, there's learning the laws of Torah, and then there's learning the pilpul of Torah. Okay, that's a side point. And this idea of the differences of Torah is connected to the studying of Torah before the wedding. First, the person has to know the laws. And in order for a person to know the laws of Torah is more important, it's also, we could even push off a marriage or a person to get ready to get married until they've conquered at least a good portion of the laws of Torah. Even though getting married is an important mitzvah, to be fruitful and multiply and set up a family. Is he mitzvahs Talmud Torah shkul connected kol mitzvahs? You could delay it, right? We don't get married right away when we're able. We could delay it because a person has to study Torah. And that, what kind of Torah are we talking about? The laws of Torah. But I'm talking about learning the pilpul of Torah, because there's no end to it. What are you going to do? You're going to push off getting married because you have to learn a pilpul. You learn a pilpul later. You're not going. There's no. You don't finish the pilpul of Torah. Of course, a person has to learn pilpul of Torah. That was given to Moshe. Every part of Torah, not just the laws, but the thinking behind the laws, the Talmud. And he gave this Torah, the pilpul of Torah to the Jewish people. It says Vayeitsei, and he gave it in a good eye. Means he wanted to include the Jewish people, that they shouldn't just learn the raw laws, but they should have the thinking behind the laws. Nevertheless, it can't come before maybe the obligation of a person that has to get married. And there's no maybe source, there's no yisod to push off marriage because the person wants to study the pilpul of Torah. As the Alter Rebbe writes himself in the laws of studying Torah. And in the second publication of the laws of Talmud Torah, the Alter Rebbe goes more into details about when a person could push off certain mitzvahs for Torah. This depending on what kind of Torah you're learning. If you're learning the laws of Torah, so of course a person says, "Well, I can't start a family if I don't know how I'm supposed to raise that family in a Jewish way. I need to know the laws." That was one of the reasons the Rebbe said that people should get the smicha before they get married. So at least you've conquered a certain part of law before you go and start building a family. And the Rebbe says we need to understand. So now the Rebbe is asking if there's so many different parts of Torah, especially the laws of Torah that helps a person build a family, that he should, and him and his wife know the laws of what does it mean to have a Jewish home. So why do we get an aliyah to Torah? Why is it important to get to the aliyah, which is just the words of Torah, of the Torah shebechsav, of the written Torah? And what are we doing? We call the chassan up, the groom, the Shabbos before his wedding, according to the minhag of Ashkenaz and Chassidim, and he stands in front of an open Torah and he looks at the words of Torah, which is important. Why specifically that before we get married? He's not getting a class in Chumash. He's just reading the words of Torah. No explanation. Once upon a time, they had a metargumon. They had a person who translated. No translations. Not even the most simple uptaichen diverter. It's very possible. You have a chassan who has very limited knowledge that will get up there, look at the words, and have no clue what the Torah is talking about. Not even the way a student learns in first grade in school. So the answer is, to understand this, we can explain this and connect it to this week's Torah portion. In the super Parshas Shavua, in this week's Parsha, how did Yaakov go about setting up his family when he was ready to get married? It's called Beis Yisrael, when he was ready to set up all the Jewish people, because his family are the descendants of Yaakov, is the Jewish people. So when he was ready to set up his family, which was the 12 tribes, 4 wives, 12 tribes, and setting up the Binyan Adi, the Jewish people, how did he go about setting that up? The Rebbe says, how Yaakov does things is the way Jewish people should do things in its most pure state. Because the way he is unique for himself. Why? Like Chazal teach us, Avram was great. However, Yatzim imenu Ishmael came from Avram. Yitzchak was great, but Yatzim imenu Esav. He had to deal with the Esav. Yaakov had a full, complete house. His bed was complete. So when we want to look at a successful plan for setting up a Jewish family, we would look at Yaakov's family. Because Yaakov's family is a family that had a complete bed, whereas Avram and Yitzchak didn't have a perfect situation. So what did Yaakov do to set up his family? The Torah teaches us certain details about what Yaakov did to set up a family. And all the details of this story, like all the stories of Torah, like Aaron says, what's the lesson? Are not just the story of what Yaakov did, but it's a lesson to us, the Doris for the generations, in all times, in all places, in all times. How Yaakov approached setting up his family for a Jewish home is a lesson till today in our times. Torah says Torah is everlasting. You can't say Torah was up until the shtetl. And when we came to the free land, things have changed. Nothing's changed. So what does the Torah tell us? How the parsha starts off. How does the parsha start? Vayeitsei Yakov in Beersheva. Yaakov leaves Beersheva. And where does he go to? Page 101. He goes to Charan. We already learned this before at the end of last week's parsha, that he left on the hold on, Aaron. He left on the inspiration of his parents. Hold on, Aaron. What did you say? I'm breaking up. Sorry, what did you say? Are you not able to hear me?
Rabbi, I can hear you just fine at my end.
I can hear you too, Rabbi.
So Aaron, I think it's your connection. So he says like
Yeah, I
this.
can
Right?
hear also. Me too. I
And
can also
Ariel
hear you.
Grosso. Okay, so I think Aaron, you have to restart your phone or your connection. So Vayelech Harana, Inyan Shenemer Kvar B'Simon Parshas of Neza V'Choyzev V'Neshana Bas Chalaz Parshas Seinu. We learn again. We learned it last week that he went to Haran, and we learned it again this week. Moshe Kasev Pirush Rashi Shechaz Linyan Arishain. So we see the fact that the Torah repeats itself. That Yakov left Beersheba and went to Haran is saying it a second time to start again after we broke for a second to tell us about Esav's marriage. It shows the importance that the Torah has to repeat itself. The Torah is very exact. Even one extra letter, we can learn many laws. Even surely, something that gets repeated. The fact that the Torah says it again has to be a lesson. So the Rebbe says like this. What do we learn? It says, Vayeitsei Yakov mi Beersheva vayelech Harana. That Yaakov left Beersheva and he goes to Haran. Oidus Hashem Beersheva. Why is it called Beersheva? We have two times in the Torah when it talks about Beersheva. Metzinu b'Torah shlei tamim. We find two reasons. Aleph, the first reason is Hashem Hashvua Shahisa Be'esak Krisis Bris Ben Avram LeAvimelech. The first time is the covenant of friendship between Avram and Avimelech in the end, towards the end of Parshas Vayera, after when Avimelech comes and after the story of Avimelech and Sarah, and after Yitzchak is born, so they make a covenant. And the second reason is called Beersheva Hashem HaBe'er Hashviyis Shechaf Rav de Yitzchak. The seventh well that the servants of Yitzchak found. So the Torah says that they found the seventh well, therefore they call it Beersheva, which is two different Sheva. Sheva from the word of Shavua, or Sheva from the number 7. After again, Yitzchak also has to go through a peace process with Avimelech, the king of the Philistines. The fact that there's two reasons for the name of the city Beersheva. They symbolize a certain level of tranquility and peace by the Jewish people. It means that they're making a peace treaty between Avimelech and Avram. And the seventh well, after they've disagreed with all the other wells, they were able to find a well that they agreed to belong to Yitzchak. Lumasais halot, so Beersheva is a place of goodness, a place of Sheva, a place of the seventh well, a place of Shavua, of promise, of peace. So that's where he's leaving. Lumasa Hashem Harana, where is he going to? He's going to Lavan's home, which is Haran. And what's Haran? Moira al-Matzav Hafki is the total opposite of Beersheva. Kipirish Chazal, like our rabbis have taught us, that Haran is Haran, Moira al-Haran Avshalaylam, God's angry place. It's an angry place of the world. So it's going from a tranquility, from a peaceful place to an angry place. Nevertheless, Yaakov leaves Beersheva. He leaves the comfort, the peaceful place of Beersheva, and he goes to the angry place of Haran. He goes away from a place of peace and tranquility. He goes to the angry place of the world. And here we could answer a simple question. Because God, one could ask a question that if God created the world and He gave us the Torah mitzvahs in a full way, wherever you move in your life, one has to perform one of the mitzvahs, positive mitzvahs, or its branches. Or to be careful from the 365 prohibitions or one of their branches. So if God wants us, every second we're doing, we're involved in a mitzvah, one way or the other, either to avoid something bad or to do something positive. So seemingly we would think automatically God has to get rid of all worries, lift any daigas. Daigas is concerns, worries, anxieties. Daigas Galus. Why are we sitting there worried about Galus? We want to do mitzvahs the whole day. In the meantime, we're struggling with Galus ideas. Daigas Haparnasa. We're trying to figure out how do we make a living. Why am I worried about trying to make a living when I spend my time learning Torah or doing mitzvahs? That's what God wants me to do. So why do I have all these issues in my head? Okay, there are other things that are worrying a person. So and why do we want this? So we should be able to better perform the mitzvahs. We should be better off. We should never have to engage in worldly things. Why can't we live like the Jews in the desert? We had man, we had a washer machine in the clouds, we had a press machine in the clouds. Why do we have to engage b'chlal, waste our time in worldly things? We should just find ourselves in the tent of Torah. So a person may have that question. And people ask that question. So here the Torah tells us, what did Yakov do? When he wants to build a home for his family, of a Jewish home, he has to leave his comfort. He has to leave the place of peace, leave the place of tranquility. He was able to make a quick 14-year pit stop in the yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever, but he had to continue going. He couldn't stay there. And only to go to Charan, the angry place of the world, and there he's going to establish a family. Before he was able to start the Jewish people, theoretically, he could have just been in Beersheba. That's only before he wants to make a family. He was sitting in the yeshiva of Shem Ve'ever or in Beersheba by his father, in the oil, in the tent of Torah. And there it's all godliness. Where he's easy for him to perform mitzvahs. And he has to go look to do an Aveira. He's sitting in the yeshiva the whole day. That's all before he's ready to start a Jewish family. Page 102. When it came time for him to set up his family, he couldn't stay anymore in Beersheba. He had to go to an angry place. A place where godliness is concealed, in a challenging place to find God. There's concealment. Just the world itself is a concealment of godliness. Creation is a concealment. And if you want to find the most concealed place, you're going to go to the angry place of the world. Why are they angry? They're angry because why is there anger there? Because it's not, there's no revealed godliness. Is there. It's easy to become involved in Averis and transgressions. It's difficult to go out there and make choices to do mitzvahs in life. And specifically there, not when he's in his father's home, not when he's in Beersheba. When he had to stand up for the test that he was given, Yakov was given in these challenging places and times that he lived in at the time. Only there he was able to find his wives and build his family. Not just any family, but he had the complete family. He had the most difficult in time getting married, right? Yitzchak was the shidduch was brought to him. Avram, they got together and they were on a mission together. Yitzchak had to go out there. Yaakov had to go to a difficult place, and only there to build a family. But his family was a complete family, unlike his father and his grandfather. This is the lesson for every one of us. A person again may ask themselves, why are there nisyonis? Why do we have challenges? If God wants for me to do Torah mitzvahs, why isn't he giving me an easy pass? Cut the line. Cut all the lines. Go quick. Because that's not the way it works, he says. The Rebbe says, only when you have challenges, and you're able to overcome these challenges, you withstand them. That merits the challenge, the difficulty. Then you merit livness Bayis Yehudi, to build a Jewish home. Bayis Ma'or, a house that illuminates light. Bayis Cham, a warm home. That's the first lesson we learned from Yaakov. The Rebbe continues. Mamshech b'kasev, the Torah continues. How did he go about going to Charan? So first we discussed why he had to go to Charan. Because only in Charan, and the challenges of Charan, was he worthy to build such a home that he built. And how did he go about it? The first thing he does when he goes to Charan, the Gemara tells us, the pasuk tells us, he went to the place, he met the place, Lashon Tefillah. First thing is he davens. What does that mean? When a Yid goes out to Charan, goes out to the angry place of the world, he's trying to find, or she's trying to find their mate in life. L'chura, seemingly, what do you do if you want to go out to the world and to be able to meet up in the world? Is lilmoitz fas minig hamadina. First, you have to get an education. Go learn the language of the country. He sure first went to a course to see what language did he speak in Charan. How could he be familiar with the language of Charan? Medina, maybe get a crash course on the customs of the country. Medina, maybe he has to dress up like the people dress in Charan. He's leaving his father's home in Beersheba. He's going to Charan. Now he has to look like a Charan, a local. Especially wants to build a family there. Nevertheless, Yaakov doesn't go to learn the language and doesn't want to figure out the customs of the law of the country. What does he do? The first thing he does is he davens. He prays. What is the lesson? When a Yid wants to get ready to build a Jewish home, a person may think, okay, until now, I'm 18, 19, 20, whatever the age is. Until now, it's okay. I learned in the yeshiva. I learned Torah. I was able to daven properly and do mitzvahs. But now it's time to go out to the world. I'm going out to the world. So now things have to change. I need to put everything on the side. I have to educate myself in how I want to go out to the world. I have to be educated to go out to the world. How does the things work in the world that I'm going out to? I have to go chase after how people are doing things in the country that I'm living in. When a person may think that, so we look back and say, how did the first Yid of Yaakov Avinu, when he built the Jewish home, how did he build his home? The first thing is he goes to the place that specifically now he davens, right? When you were in yeshiva, okay, now you're going out to the world, you specifically need to daven. Now you have to be more vigilant and careful in your davening because you're vulnerable. The fact that you learned before in the yeshiva and you daven in the yeshiva in the comfort of Beersheba, of the place of seven, the place of the Shvua, the place of peace and tranquility. That's not enough now because your reality changed. You're vulnerable. You're out in the world. You're going out to the world. Now there's tests that you weren't tested before. Much greater than the test you had before. So specifically now you have to start davening. One has to daven and ask from God, I should be able to withstand the test. So that's the second thing he did. First thing is to build a family, he has to leave his father's comfort. Second, he has to go to Haran, the angry place of the world. And the second thing is, what's his most important thing he does to be successful in this venture, is he doesn't go and get himself a proper education for Haran. He goes out there and he davens to Hashem to be able to withstand this new test in his life. The Rebbe continues. And the pasuk continues to tell us about how Yaakov prepared for this journey. He takes from the stones of the place that he was at over there in Har Bayis, and Har Maria, and he puts it around his head. Rashi teaches us, what did he do? He made a circular protection for shelter around his head. So the animals, his head is vulnerable, so the animals at night shouldn't try to hurt him. So he put the stones around his head. That's what Rashi says. Seemingly, when the Rebbe says one could ask, it doesn't make sense. That again, he wasn't running short of time and it wasn't lazy. So why didn't he just build a shelter around his whole body? Why does he only shelter his head? Why didn't he protect the rest of his body? The Rebbe said, seemingly one could ask the question, if he would have trust in God, so that he doesn't need to protect himself because his rest of his body, because God's going to protect him, which is okay. So then the question asks itself, why would he make a protection around his head? And if he doesn't want to take advantage, so to say, of a supernatural protection from God, he says, let me do his askas, let me do things within the laws of nature, not because he doubts God, but God wants us to make a vessel within the laws of nature, so he does what he has to do. He puts a shelter around his whole body. Then he should have made a full shelter. Why does he only shelter his head? The Rebbe explains, when we can understand this, this is a famous verse that says that that a person through the efforts of your hands you will eat. Right? So the Rebbe says daika. The pasuk, the verse points out that your hands have to preoccupy themselves in labor. When a person, he or she goes out to the world to make a living, a person applies their hands, not their head. again, Chassidus explains, well, let's finish the Rebbe's thought here, and just in case there's something needs to be added. So the Rebbe is saying is that when a person goes out to the world, you put in your hands. The Torah says put your hands in it, but don't throw your head into that. Your head, nishar panu, should be free. Should only be your thinking. What preoccupies your head should just be Torah and service of God. When a person only puts their external qualities, even the head, obviously it's a lot of jobs, not every job is just a job of mowing or building. There are jobs that require, a lot of jobs, especially today in the tech world, that require a lot of our brain power. But we're talking about, is it external of your brain? Is it just the part that you need to apply for your job, or you're really into it? The things that you're really into should be Torah mitzvahs. The external of your brain and your hands, that's for when you need to go out to the world. But what really matters to you, when you have a free second, you want to really apply yourself, that yagia, the idea of the toiling of your head, that should be in Torah mitzvahs. Okay, like he says, when a person only applies their hands, the external, but your head is put into Torah and service of God, then it says, great is the person. Like the verse continues, it's not going to just benefit you that you can have a better spiritual existence. The Rebbe adds that the Rebbe taught this over and over again, that your physical situation is going to be better this way. When a person overthinks different schemes in Parnasa and trying to make a living, you toil with your head to try to figure it out, to try to beat the system. Not only won't it do anything, it won't help you at all. Most of the time, it makes things worse. Like it says, that the Gemara quotes that not the wise people are not necessarily the people that have the most bread. The Rebbe says, what's it mean to us? When a person goes out to the charon of the world, the angry part of the world, you're going out to a different world from what you're accustomed to when you're still in the comfort of your home, of your community, of your yeshiva. Yakov knew Hativ. He knew where he's going. And he knew he knew what's happening, and he wasn't fooled. He knew that he was stripped of all his money, and he would have to work by his uncle Lavan, the cheater. And it's not going to be easy. Lavan's not going to give him a free pass. And he knew he even knew before he's going to Charan that when he's on the way to get to there, there's all kind of challenging wild animals. It's not even to get ready. It's not just your job is hard. Even to get ready for your job is difficult. And in order that the world, not the danger of the physical danger, but the spiritual danger of the world, wouldn't affect him, he makes a shelter around his head specifically to symbolize that he's leaving his head open for Torah. That his head is protected from the world, from the environment of the world. Lahagin ala roish, to protect his head. That the head shouldn't get affected. The Rebbe says in Yiddish, the head shouldn't get affected. Yes, I'm ready to work very hard. He worked super hard for Lavan. We learned about it in this week's parasha. He overworked for Lavan in a way that's not regular. Avidasi based Lavan. He had to get ready for that. He had to go there. He wanted to make sure that he's gonna. That's not the essence thing. That's not what he's really involved in. He does that because he has to live and he has to set up his family. But what his yagia, his true toil, what he really has a passion in, and what he applies himself to, that's in the Torah. Even though again he gives his full effort in when he goes out and he works. Where his mind is preoccupied in any time that he's free from working is learning Torah. And this has to be a lesson to every Jewish person. Yes, we go out to the world, and like he said, the way you establish a family is going out to the world. You have to make sure and your head is protected. Because what you preoccupy yourself with and what matters to you is this, applying your head to Torah and service. Your head is going to be in a safe place. Then you don't have to shelter your rest of your body. Because as long as you protect what your focus is, what your drive is, what motivates you, so then everything else is more mechanical. It's just to get, it's a means to a way, it's a means to be able to live in this world and serve God. Yes, you're going to learn. You're going to do your parnasik the way it says, and you're supposed to do it in the laws of Torah. And Hagasei Daim Tia Ba'ifin Shesmol Bavad Doicha Avimim Rebbes. We know we have two hands. That you don't get too aggressive. The left hand is when we need to be disciplined, but the right hand is always encouraging. And when you're running, why are you running? You're running to be able to perform a mitzvah. What's your draw? What's your movement in life? Is to be able to perform another mitzvah. This idea, Mars of Savir the Reishi, that Yaakov put a shelter around his head. What does he use? Remember, the Rebbe asked an original question. Why, when we go out to get an aliyah before we get married, do we read the words of Torah? So here's now the Rebbe is going to address this question. What does Yaakov use for shelter? He used the stones of the place that he was in. 104. Avonim, what is stones? Heim sugim hadoimim. From the creations, there's medaber, someone who speaks. There's chai, which is the animal kingdom, things that are alive. There's sameach, things that grow, and then there's doimim, the life, seemingly the lifeless things, the things that have no movement. Stones comes from that world, the world of doimim. She'ein bem chayes, seemingly there's no vitality, there's no life. Ve'ein bem afilu nefesh hatzemechas, they don't even have a growing soul. They're not the vegetation. Vinyanim b'avoda, what does that symbolize? The person. What does the stone symbolize in our service of God? Is Kabbalah soul. It's always the accepting the yoke. It's like bittul. It's just there. We have to serve God, not because we understand, not because we have a passion. Right? Growth is chayis, is a passion. Smeach, things are growing within you. You grow. The stone represents, I'm serving God because I'm accepting the yoke of God as my king. L'lai seichel, l'lai regesh. It's not because I have an intellect in it, and not because I have a feeling towards it. V'inyan b'zeh, what does this mean? Why does he have to put the stones around his head? Why didn't he put a Torah scroll around his head, right? Why does he put the stones? So the Rebbe says, what is the tool a person needs to be strong in the world, and the world shouldn't affect you? Their narrative and the rhetoric of the world shouldn't affect you. It's not you're not going to be strong enough if you have enough intellect built up, or you have enough emotional connection built up. The powers of the world are much stronger than that, and it's going to be a big challenge if you just are going to go to the world with the weapons of your intellect and your feelings. You have to have it within yourself the idea of I'm accepting the yoke no matter what. There's no argument that's going to break that. I'm accepting the yoke of God in a complete way. I nullify myself for what God wants for me. To feel like you're a stone. If I'm like a daimim, I don't move. My soul is like dirt to everyone. When a person has the foundation of bittul, that on bittul, you build on self-nullification, you build your foundation. So then there's nothing that's going to shake you. There's no argument that's going to shake you. There's no emotional experience that's going to shake you. A stone doesn't move on its own. For a stone to move from point A to point B, someone has to lift it up and take it from this place and move it to the next place. So too, you have to feel like you have that the stone within you. Evet Pashat, your simple servant. The God picks you up. The Rebbe says, let yourself be picked up. Let God pick you up. To take you from place to place where you need to be in life. Because each place that you go to, each time God picks you up and places you someplace else, there's a purpose for that journey. And give yourself over to that journey with a bittul, not because you understand it, not because you feel it. That's going to be the protection. If Yakov goes out to the world again, he doesn't put a Torah around his head. He doesn't put a esrogim around his head. He puts stones around his head. And this is the continuation. So after he puts the stones, he has the dream. So he makes a vow to God. If God is going to be with me. He says, in order for me to get and to be successful in this journey, I need to be connected to God. I need to make a vow. A vow is a kind of relationship that no matter what, right? Otherwise, you don't need to make a vow. The purpose of a vow is when there's difficult situations, you make a vow. Even if I'm going to go out to the world and all of a sudden I'm going to start changing my wants and I'm going to start changing my thinking, I'm going to start changing my feelings. I'm not going to do anything anyways because I've made a vow that I'm going to stick to my plan with Hashem. Hold on, Aaron. I'm committed to what I've agreed to because I made a vow. Yes, Aaron.
What's the difference between a vow and I think a swear, the one that we get rid of on Yom Kippur?
It's a vow. It's just different words. The shvua is a promise. A vow is when you make a commitment.
So
if
it's the
you-
same seriousness?
Yes, in vows is you make an absolute commitment to Hashem. Okay.
And you need 3 people if you want to annul it?
Yes. All that.
Okay.
I'm just wrapping up because I have to finish in a few minutes. When a person has this attitude, the Rebbe says, the parsha continues. Then this stone, this foundation, this avoda of what we said is the Kabbalah Sol, the bittul, the accepting the yoke of God. Shasamti matzeva yi beis elikim is going to be the house of God. We're just talking about stones. Why does the stone become a house of God? We're not talking about he didn't have gold and silver. He didn't take city stones. He didn't take stones from a home. He took stones on the path. He's able to make that a house of God. What's this mean in our service of God? Even the most simple, mundane things of our life. Like stones in the middle of the road. And they become perfuated and totally soaked in with holiness. Because everything about your avoda, everything about your experience in the world is about godliness. Basically, Kim becomes a house of God. And let's just finish off. The Rebbe says, "V'zui ha'ira." This is the lesson. Musar Haskell the call and the idea that everyone should take. Specifically, that I was talking to a young groom and bride that are ready to start a home. Your home has to be the house of God. How do you make your home your house of God? You make it totally through and through with holiness. You don't just have holiness in your house, in your home, because you have a siddur, a prayer book, or you have a chumash, you have the Torah, you have some holy books. The Rebbe says even the fork and the kapit and the spoon, your spoon and your fork have to be holy. And how do we do that? How do we have the power to do that? When you prepare yourself. Like we said, the first thing you do is not to get the education, but to daven. That this is a journey, this is a holy journey that you're going into. You meet in the place, you take even the stones on the path. And you protect your head, your interest. And what is your head protected with? Is committed to have the bittul and accepting the yoke of Hashem. As we explained before at length, and therefore that through that a person will affect. Not only when you're davening, when you're praying, not only when you're awake, even when you're sleeping. He slept like a yid. That where you're sleeping is the gates of heaven. And your entire home is a house of God. The Rebbe says, based on this, we could explain. Why? Before a person gets married, the Rebbe originally asked the question, do we get an aliyah, do we get called up to the Torah to read the words of Torah? We don't read the pilpul, we don't give a long discourse, right? Because the point is to emphasize that how does one prepare themselves for their marriage? Not because we're connected to Torah, because we understand Torah. Because we have a deep understanding of the studying of Torah. Because we accept the yoke of Torah. And the words of Torah are like the stones. Like a stone, it says stones builds homes, words builds ideas. Not even understanding the meanings of the word necessarily. And this is the proper way to build a home of God. And the Rebbe finished off that sikha. This is again, this is a talk the Rebbe said in 1950 before he officially accepted the leadership as Rebbe. It's Kvei Kedush Amashli Tehira, the Rebbe asked Shabali Asik, anyone who's a business person, that takes off from their business time, he or she, and has chavrusas, has Torah studies. At least once a week. Yom L'chaim should say L'chaim. So L'chaim, everyone, we're studying now. It's a good time to say L'chaim. Laila Tov, everyone.
Bye.
And have a good have a great Shabbos.
Rabbi. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everybody.